how does punishing Australian business, and by inference all Australians and the Australian economy, with this so-called safeguard mechanism, how does that solve anything?
It doesn't do anything, Alan. It doesn't take a PhD to work out that if the rest of the world is continuing to emit carbon emissions and we cut ours in Australia when we're worth less than 1.3% of global emissions now, it's not going to do a single thing. And as you said there, as you alluded to, it's only in the United States, those statistics. Meanwhile, China just this year, is building 104 gigawatts of coal-fired power stations. A coal-fired power station is about a gigawatt. So in effect, China is building 2 coal-fired power stations a week. It's been 2 weeks since that legislation passed. So 4 coal-fired power stations have been erected on average there in mainland China. And as you say, Chris Bowen's prancing around, acting like King Canute, thinking that he's held back the tides and the world's healing thanks to his single-handed efforts. It's absolutely absurd. And eventually, this kind of fantasy will get punched in the face by reality. Eventually, reality is going to chase us down with higher power prices, with the closures of manufacturing, as you mentioned, and we'll be left without the economic powerhouse that has generated so much prosperity for Australia.
I mean, we should be the energy powerhouse of the world. I don't ever criticise you, but may I just have a little criticism here of the great Senator Canavan, because you're a trained scientist. Shouldn't we be referring to carbon dioxide emissions, not carbon emissions? Because the ABC love presenting these smokestack pictures and everyone looks and thinks, well, of course we should be doing something to eliminate all that. That's carbon. We're talking about carbon dioxide. Does the scientist offer me approval for that?
Yep. It's a fair point, Alan, and I'm guilty, as many others, of sometimes lapsing into the language of the left. They're very good at manipulating the English language and effectively changing the terms of engagement, and I shouldn't do that. But you're right, it's a colourless, odourless gas. You cannot see it, so therefore it's not what you see coming out of those smokestacks. That's water vapour. Those coal-fired, it is literally just water. It's perfectly harmless. It's odourless too. You can't even smell carbon dioxide. And we're increasingly seeing, we're seeing with the world temperature records that there hasn't been significant warming now for at least a decade, so on some measures 2 decades. And so something is very, very wrong with the models that we've been relying on to make these massive and very, very costly changes. Look, I don't think the science is settled, and I don't think the science is settled either way on issues like carbon dioxide emissions, but we certainly shouldn't be handicapping our entire industrial economy based on evidence which is really not that strong.
To our viewers, I just say the point that Matt Canavan has made often, and I've made it here, that on top of America, and you've just heard that statistic, the UK is opening up oil drilling in the North Sea. He's written this and talked about it over. Germany's reopening 24 coal-fired power stations. China, as you heard him say, is building 2 coal-fired power stations a week. Matt, are we crazy? People are saying to me every day, and I'm sure they say to you, what the hell are we up to in this country and where are we heading? They're genuinely concerned, but they feel they have no voice.
Well, I think it's the bonfire of the vanities, isn't it? We've become quite vain as a society when we haven't had a major recession, really a proper recession, since the early 1990s. So, it's human nature to think things just happen automatically, that somehow the wealth that we enjoy in this country comes to us like manna from heaven, and we don't have to work hard on it or make any tough choices to generate it. Previous generations of Australians knew those tough choices, made the tough decisions, and we're just living the legacy of their hard work. But if we keep going down this road, this garden path of thinking that we can put new taxes on the economy, we can undercut the industrial prosperity of our manufacturing sector without consequence, well, we'll soon realise that that's a complete fantasy. I just hope we don't drive over that cliff before we realise it, because it'll be very, very painful for lots of people. And the people suffering from such pain won't be Chris Bowen, and they won't be Anthony Albanese. I mean, they might lose their ministerial jobs, they'll get a pension or whatever, they'll be fine. It's the people on the manufacturing and factory floors here that are going to be the real victims of this complete lack of common sense in Canberra.